Hello. I'm Martha Teichner, and with me is Joe Miller, whom I'm sure every one of you knows. And likes, obviously. So, start at the beginning. Why are you leaving?
I'm leaving because it's the right time. It's time for that chapter to turn, and I have a new opportunity in my life to lead the vocal arts ensemble in Cincinnati, professional choir there. So, making room in my life, and but really, as an artist, there are just times to make a change, and it's a time for me to do that.
And what will you be doing in terms of, you're going to be in Cincinnati at the College Conservatory of Music and the Vocal Arts Ensemble, and what else are you going to be doing?
I'm the choral director for the Philadelphia Orchestra, so I take care. I have a professional choir with the orchestra there, so I'll continue to do that as well, and then my own freelance conducting.
We'll get back to some of that, but as you've been wandering around Charleston, this Spoleto, what kinds of moments, what kinds of reminiscences, what kinds of pangs have you had in your last year?
I've been saying this for some reason the whole time, but I just see ghosts everywhere. Every corner, and I mean that in the best way. So there are these layers. There's not a road that I go down. Every room that I enter, every theater, the layers of memory are so deep. And for some reason, everyone's there. So I see all of those directors and musicians and singers, and on the streets too. So everywhere I walk, I have my rituals also that I do when I'm here.
Like what?
My battery walk is always one of those. Jeff Nuttall and I used to always meet. He said, meet me at the beach. And the beach is that tiny little bit of sand, right before you get on the battery there, that tiny little
By the
bit.
yacht club.
That's right. So Jeff and I, that was our meeting place. We'd just find each other. He'd be throwing a ball to his dog, out in the water. But yeah, I have those rituals that I do. So as I've done those this year, I'm like, oh, hello, Joe Flummerfelt, why are you here? And hello, Charles Wadsworth, why are you here? So it's these layers that I have. And so lots of friendly ghost.
Have you, if it were me, I'd be sort of secretly going off and sobbing every so often.
Yeah, I've done some of that too.
Mm. And go back. Tell us where it all started at Spoleto. When was your first year? What did you do that first year? What do you remember from those early productions?
I came to the festival. I was hired at Westminster Choir College actually in December of 2005. I signed a contract. And I signed it early so that I could come to the festival in 2006. So I was here, and I was a guest of Joe Flummerfelt. And so I got to see the inner workings and visit what was happening. And I had no idea. I mean, this Spoleto was so overwhelming to me. I just couldn't imagine it. And the first production that I saw was Don Giovanni, which was in then Meminger Auditorium, now Festival Hall. And it was the best thing I had ever seen in my life. And I mean that. It was extraordinary. There was a pool the building was falling down.
It was condemned at that. Did any of you see that, Don Giovanni, so you remember?
Yeah. There was a pool. There was a giant 20-foot inflatable head that would come up in the middle of it. Don Giovanni and Leporello were played by almost twin singers, and the Westminster Choir was dressed all in white, and they did nothing but run the entire time. But the production was brilliant. My first year at the festival, Mahagone was the first thing that we did, and that was an incredible performance in the Satilli Theater. It only used the tenors and basses, so I had to take the sopranos and altos and create a concert with them. And when we created this concert, the venue that they recommended to me was St. Stephen's Church, which is actually right around from where I live now.
Me too.
From where I stay. Yeah, it's very near your house.
It's teeny tiny.
It's teeny tiny. And so I built a program around these Shostakovich songs. And so we had these Shostakovich songs, and I built this whole kind of program around it. And it was teeny tiny. We did 2 performances. I think they were both sold out. Of course, that would be very easy to do. But they were magic. And if you came to the choral concert this year, the last piece that I did was, the encore was the last piece on that program.
So this year you said, you hinted at the concert, the choral concert, that this is the year of Joe's favorites.
Yes. Yeah, it was really fun to put that concert together. I wrote down every piece that I had done since the beginning of the festival.
How many was that?
Well, it was at least 2 or 3 full typewritten pages.
So hundreds.
Hundreds of pieces. And I threw out everything that was impractical, and then I began to say, what are the things I really wanted to do? And then I curated that program from that long list.
Was it dependent at all on your memory of the acoustics in a particular venue, or how it would sound at St. Matthew's when you heard it, and the idea of, I'm doing this so that I can hear it one last time in a venue like this?
Yes, I certainly thought about that. And, when we were playing the program, there are some programs that we've done in different spaces that I knew would not work in St. Matthew's because of the acoustic. But the Cathedral of St. Luke and St. Paul and St. John the Baptist on Broad Street were both where we did significant concerts. St. Matthew's acoustic's not terribly different from that. So it was very much like putting together the Howells Requiem. As I said this in the concert, it was such a powerful memory for me of the festival and my choir. One of my singers said the other day, we were talking, she said, I'll never forget the concert because you just stopped conducting and looked at us in the concert. And I said, yeah, because I trusted you so much. I was just enjoying. So I wanted to create a little bit of that in my final concert. So I brought some of those memories back into it as well.
Was that for the audience or for yourself?
Yes.
He says cryptically. When you said you were you were just overwhelmed that first year at what Spoleto was, what have you learned? What have all these years doing concerts in this festival setting and with all the multiple parts, what have they taught you that you didn't know when you started coming here?
It's not an understatement for me to say it changed my life.
Go on.
It changed everything, because when I was here, I was with the best stage directors, the best lighting designers, the dancers, the actors. It was overwhelming, all of the things, all of a sudden that I was experiencing, and I was coming from my world of choral music and maybe theater as well. I had all of these things in me, but there was something about being here that all of a sudden it was like, oh, I could do that. Or I could take this and do that, and I could put those things together, and I could collaborate with that person that was never on my radar. And every year, the richness of it. Becca Eddens, one of my good friends here, is a stage director, and I'd watch what Becca did and how she did it and go, oh, why have I done it this way? I'm going to do it that way. And so it taught me to think differently. It taught me to expand what I wanted to do. And that is what I've tried to do with the festival. It's allowed me the opportunity to explore. People would ask me about the festival, why do you work there? Why do you want to work there? My answer is almost always because it's the land of yes. The festival's not the land of, no, we can't do that. That's the rest of my life, usually. There's no money, there's none of this, none of that. And Spoleto was always the, yes, let's try it, or that's interesting, or there's no way that will work, that's too expensive, but maybe we could do it this way. And so the collaborating with all these artists that were very outside of my realm, and then the liberty to take risks, to explore new areas and new venues and new ways to use a choir.
As opposed to people all bunched together on risers in the equivalent of like the choir stalls in a church.
Yeah, and that did change my life. It changed my trajectory. I don't know anything about what people think of me really in my work, but my guess is that people see me doing things. It's not that I try to do things outside of the box. It's just I'm interested in how a choir relates to the world, to the audience. I think about, I want it to be a big tent. I don't want the choir to be relegated to this tiny little swatch. I want it to be part of the world, and I want it to be part of everything that we do musically. And I do feel like choirs get relegated to this very narrow thing. And so Spoleto's allowed me to explore that and to dream.
How do you convince the outside world beyond Spoleto, where you have the opportunity to do things that are out of the box? How do you convince the rest of the world? Has the rest of the world changed at all with regard to choirs?
Well, I think the way you do it is you have to make them feel something. That bottom line. It doesn't matter whether you know music. Everybody knows the human voice. That's the power of choir. Everyone knows that, but classical music they may not know. It's not that I think, I do think the choir's for everyone. I do, but that relationship with the human voice, there's already an in there, but I think if you can cause people to feel, and I think hearing the human voice, to me it's the quickest way in to someone. It's the quickest way into my soul. And so I think when you focus on that, of trying to make people feel something. The other day in the concert, we did the first set of the choral concert, and I just looked at the audience and said, I hope that we took you someplace different. I hope you came in, you might have been thinking about what you had for lunch or argument that you had with someone. I hope for just that moment that all of a sudden we took you out of that. And that's power, and it's incredible it's why I live in that world. It's why I love to live in that world. So bringing people into that world is so important. And it absolutely has changed. The world has changed. And I want to be engaged in that world that is sensory, that is visual, that is non-static. I think there's a time and place for static. I think there's a time and place for a person, a choir, to stand absolutely still in one place and not do anything. But I think today, in today's visual world, the interaction of all of those things together, of visual art, of design, of light, of costume, of AI, recording technology, all of those things integrated with the choral world, that's the future.
Do you have to invent a new kind of singer in order to fulfill that ambition?
Yes, you do. It's really not true anymore, but in the world that I grew up in, there was the world of you are an opera singer, you are in music theater, or you are a choral singer, and never will those things come together. And that is gone. It's gone. It's gone today. I just did a production of Kevin Putt's new opera called The Hours, and we premiered the opera at the Philadelphia Orchestra with Yannick Nézet-Séguin, and it was a commission, and we started with the concert version, and we had Kelly O'Hara and Renee Fleming and Jennifer Cano, who sang our third person. So first of all, you have three soloists coming from different places. Kevin writes an opera that is completely choral. The choir sings the entire time. So in essence, it's a choral opera. And Kevin is asking everyone on stage to come out of their box and enter this world that he has. And so the singer of today is the singer, if you're going to sing opera, if you're going to sing choral music, you have to be able to do both. No longer is the choral singer going to stand there and not be able to deliver both sonically, both vocally, but visually and spiritually. They've got to deliver the same thing as an opera singer does. And the opera singer has to come into the world of Caroline Shaw, of Missy Massoli, of all of these people that are asking them to sing in a different way, to use their voice in a different way, and that is the singer of the future.
Do they like that?
I think they love it. I think the younger they are, the more they love it.
I remember seeing Path of Miracles, the Joby Talbot opera that you provided the chorus and so on, and people were crawling around on the floor, and they were moving around all the time, and they had to sing on their stomachs. They had to find you conducting. Talk about that as a manifestation of what you're talking about.
It was, well, first of all, it's just one of my favorite projects in my life. I mean, it was extraordinary. The piece alone is absolutely extraordinary. But I've worked a lot with John Labouchedière, and John and I did a production here. For my first kind of major production here that I conducted was El Nino by John Adams. And it had all of those elements. There were 120 orchestral members, 20 feet in the air in the back of Festival Hall. And the choir and the soloist were on shredded tires on the floor, also crawling and moving and doing, and with puppets and all of these things. John's a real dreamer. And so I thought, if I want to do an a cappella work and I want to stage it, and the work is about a pilgrimage from here to here, John, to me, was the person that I wanted to direct it. And so he gave us this amazing challenge of making this piece not only move. The piece is written in, I don't know, 16, 18 parts, mostly at all the time. I mean, it's incredibly virtuosic, with basses sitting on low Cs, low As at the beginning of the piece, and the sopranos sitting up on high ABC, quite often too. It's stratospheric in what it does. That's hard enough to do standing in one place and singing. Now take it and move it. And keep it moving the whole time, and give it a narrative of pilgrimage that happened. And it was just a joy, and it pushed every boundary. And I'm sure there are people that know the piece that went, oh no, I don't like it that way. And I'm sure there were other people like me that went, oh my gosh, I can't wait to do it that way again.
I can't imagine it any other way. I can't imagine people standing in a little group, staring out at the audience doing that. It just seems inconceivable.
Yeah. Sing this high C, sing this high A, and by the way, here's a rock.
Right.
Hold on to that
Carry
and
it.
carry it across the stage.
Yeah.
It's what we ask singers to do, though, today. To be mobile, to be in different environments, and certainly an opera singer or a music theater singer today, we ask them to do that. They take those risks. With the advancement of technology and all the things that we do, the world of how a voice is used is changing.
Well, I think, we've talked about it, but it seems, and I talked about this with Lisa Weilerstein earlier, because she had the lights and the changing colors of lights and the set for fragments. And it just seems as if at a certain point there was a tipping point, and the vocabulary for the staging of classical music changed, and that the acceptance of those elements, those more ambitious multidimensional elements, is greater than it was even, say, 5 years ago.
Yes, if you go see something like the Van Gogh, the interactive Van Gogh exhibit, or all the things that or the Sphere in Las Vegas, people that are dreaming that way, and classical musicians beginning to dream in those ways. But I don't think it always has to be so sophisticated that way. I think about the first time that I heard a flute recital playing French music, and it just happened to be in a French-inspired room with the double windows open and the gauzy curtains, and I was like, just that, putting me in that space while the music was also putting me in that space was transformative, so much that I remember it vividly to this day. And I think curating and creating those type of experiences for our audiences is something that, again, has to be, in our minds as artists, has to be there all the time now.
I think people's expectations have changed.
How we absorb art, how we absorb the world right now, also, it's so visual, and I just don't think we can ignore that. We have to interplay with it, at the same time respecting what it is that we do. And in choir, it is that, it's the harmonics. It is how we are building on the harmonics of other things. That's the power. The Greeks knew it, Monteverdi knew it, Fuchs knew it. All of these people knew that that was the power of a choir. And that's the challenge for us in the choral world today is, how do you stay in that world of sonic energy and emotion and not letting all of the visual and all of the other things get in the way of that? Because our power is in the sound.
When Westminster Choir, you went from Westminster Choir to creating the Spoleto Festival USA chorus. What precipitated that, and how do you start from scratch? How do you conceive of a Spoleto Festival USA chorus, and how did you go about building it?
As Westminster began its journey toward what would eventually end in the moving of the campus, I could foresee that there was going to have to be a change. And so then it was, and then of course COVID hit in the middle of that, so it actually made that probably go even faster. But coming out of that, we had to look at it. And for me, I looked at the opportunity. First of all, what we have created is, there's nothing like it in the world, period. People don't know that. What is about to happen here at the festival after me is going to be epic, as long as the festival will keep their eye on it. Because the world doesn't even know that we have professional singers that come here. A very small group does. If I called you or knew your teacher or you saw this or that, and you happen to know this, so we've tried to get the word out, but we're just starting. Once that word gets out, there will be even more and more applicants. There'll be more and more singers that want to come to the festival. But the power that we have in this is, first of all, we are promoting professional choral singing, both in the professional choral world, but also in opera and music theater and all the things that we do. That synergy, we want to be here.
But back up a little bit. So you part company with Westminster Choir and the Rider and the Choir College and so on and so forth, and suddenly you are tasked with creating a choir for this festival. What was your thinking process? It was what, 2014, something like that?
No.
Later?
Yeah, not till 2021.
2021. Okay, so it's 2021, it's COVID, and you have to start from scratch and come up with a concept and build it from scratch. How did you go about doing that? How did you know what you wanted to do even?
I knew that one of the advantages of it, the disadvantage that we always dealt with at Westminster was that our singers were 17 to 22, 23 years old. And the festival is asking us to sing Eugene Onegin. They're asking us to sing all of these things. Well, there are only certain things that an 18, 19-year-old singer can do, as good as they may be. So I knew the power that we had was to take the projects that the festival was envisioning, and we could tailor the singers to that project if we needed an older singer, if we needed to cast these certain things. I also saw the advantage of, in that group of singers, that I could find cover cast, and I could find in the opera Thais that you saw, all of the kind of smaller roles, those were all done by singers coming from our choir. They are full professional singers, just on the beginnings of their journeys. And that turns me on, because it's one of the things I love about the festival is I love giving those opportunities to younger artists and letting them begin to do that.
So they're not undergraduates, but they're youngish for the most part, unless
Yes.
you need somebody older that you can
That's right.
bring in.
Yeah.
If you so the choir isn't the same every year in the sense that you see what you need and hire accordingly, or what?
That's true. I mean, we would look at the projects and we would tailor it. The reality is, in the festival, in most years, we have to have 2 choirs or 3 choirs. We've had as many as 4 here at the festival in my time. So it's because our first, when we're programming and building the choir, we're looking at what the major things are in the program. We're looking at those, and then we're spinning everything else off of that.
How did you do and how do you do, and how did you do the initial auditions?
I'll just back up a minute to what were my fears of it. I could see the opportunities, but my fears were that no one would come, no one knew about it, that I would not get the right number of singers. And the reality was that never was the case. So I began we made a giant list of here's all of my contacts, here's everyone I know. We have this thing in the audition industry called Yap Tracker. Yap Tracker, anyone know Yap Tracker? That's how singers hear about auditions. So we have these keys that we can turn, and we developed a list. And we just put out a call for that. And it has to happen early, because if it's an opera that has to be costumed, the choir has to be fully vetted and ready to go by December. So
With costumes.
So the costumes can be built for the opera. So the timeline is of the moment. But I made some beautiful mistakes when we started. But I learned that I had to do it in 2 rounds. I also had the orchestral model that we use, and that was incredibly helpful. So the orchestral way that we do things, and I took a lot of things that they did and just used those as a starting point. But the process that we have landed on is kind of 2 tiers. So singers submit an online portion. We review those online. And then we invite them, and then we have regional locations. So I'll be in New York for a weekend. Sometimes it used to be 2 weekends I'd be in New York. Then I might be in Dallas. We do one here in Charleston. And then the singers that are invited to that come and sing at those live audition places, and then we cast the choir.
So those are people that you've narrowed down from the online versions.
Yes.
And I guess a lot of choirs have a distinctive signature sound. Did you try to build a signature sound? Do you have, what was your goal in creating this choir, given that you have all different kinds of productions, but the essence of this choir that you started from scratch, what were you creating?
It's not a sound that I'm looking for. It's the highest level of musicianship. That's it. You give me a great musician, and they will, sound is, people used to ask me that all the time, what's the sound of the Westminster Choir? And I'm like, well, it's the sound of 20-year-olds. That's what they are. They're 20-year-olds. And we're going to shape them to make the sound of this music, and that's what we're going to do. But they're still going to sound like 20-year-olds making this sound. But with this, it was my opportunity to really seek the best musicians in the world, and I think that's what we do.
And do they age out, or can they stay long-term?
They can stay long-term. And 90% of last year's choir reapplied and wanted to come back to the festival, 90%.
Do they have to re-audition?
They do. There are some singers that I've worked with now for many years, and I know them very well. So if I know, everyone does the audition process, but there are certain times within the second round of the audition that I go, no, I don't need you to fly and do this. I've worked with you for 3 years, and I heard your pre-audition, and I know where you are. So I do that occasionally, but if I have any doubt in my mind, I have the singer come back and sing for me.
Is it possible in this country, given that you say what's here is sort of unique, is it possible in this country to make a living as a choral singer?
Yes, absolutely. And now the growth of this, COVID really put a dip in it, but the trajectory is incredible. I would say that there are almost more opportunities today for professional choral singers than there are for professional opera singers.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. There has been a foundation that's been built in the United States, and we're thankful to groups like Chanticleer, and we're thankful to people like the Chicago Symphony Orchestra Chorus and the Metropolitan Opera Chorus. You know, I always tell people we have more professional choirs in the United States than almost anywhere, but they're hidden because they're in the military. All of our military choirs are professional choirs. So we have all of the military choirs, and then we have groups like Chanticleer, LA Master Chorale, and not all of them are full-time, but so many of our singers today are gigging, so they're doing several choirs and putting it together. But my goal with my new choir in the Vocal Arts Ensemble in Cincinnati is that I want people to move to Cincinnati and make a full living being a choral singer. It's a big dream, but I'm going to do everything that I can do to try to make that happen. We've done that in Philadelphia, too. I've looked at the singers all along and said, I want you to be paid what you're worth. I want you to have work. I want you to be able to do this. And it is a slow... it takes a long time to get there, but I do feel like there's great progress because there are people that have the skills to work at the level, certainly as any orchestra in the United States.
Are there now the donors who understand what you have in mind?
No, we need you.
Because you think it has to be endowed, and you have to educate people in order to understand what they need to pay for.
Yeah. No, we don't have that yet. It is an area that has to be cultivated. And I think a lot of that also is the beauty of choral singing is that it is human, it is the voice, but we use it in all parts of society. So our donors and people who want to support this high level, they have to look at the compendium and not just think about the church choir or the community choir, these joyous things that we want people to be involved in. Unlike the way we think about a symphony orchestra, where our society is bred more to think about the sponsorship of that being a professional model. The choral world being so broad, that is a road that we must really pursue.
So people have to understand that it is the same responsibility as with a symphony orchestra.
Yes, yeah. And it's up for those of us in leadership to set that bar in a way to going, no, this is the professional standard. If we're going to push for this to be a professional part of what you do, then we have to be at that level. We have to sing at that level. Our musicianship has to be at that level.
How did you get into it? Tell us a little bit about I know you're from Knoxville, and I read that you're from a family that was largely interested in athletics, and that you went to school initially to be pre-med. Fill in the gaps.
How long do you have? I did grow up in a family of my father was a football coach and a great football player. My brother and myself, my uncle was head coach at Ohio State University. He's in the Hall of Fame. I mean, it's a long laundry list of people that are interested in. I wouldn't say just sports, because if you were to look at my family, I mean, yeah, they love sports, but they love the process of striving, of teaching. I would say that more that all of that is grounded in, they're just really good teachers. They get that process. And it was funny, my family never understood really what I did until I started talking about it, when I began to conduct more, or they would come and see. It was very easy then for my family to look and go, oh, you're just a football coach, or you're just that. And I'm like, yeah, I am. I mean, what we're doing is not that different. I'm building fundamentals. I'm building intelligence. And then you have to put that together, and most importantly, you have to get people to work together to do that. So those were really easy, finally, for my family
team.
to see. Yeah, a team.
Was your path through church music or high school? How did you arrive at choral music?
Music was, I had this aptitude from the time I was very young, beginning to go to a piano when I saw it begin to play. My mom saw this, but my father was completely against it. There was no music, no lessons, nothing. There were no piano in the house. There couldn't be any of that. He was against every moment. But I had a great mom. I have a great dad too, but my mom, understood it. I don't know what she understood, but she knew it was an aptitude. So church was my outlet. So, church, I could sing at church, and I began studying with the church organist behind my dad's back. It's a very funny story. So during the summers, I'd ride my bike to the organist house and take piano lessons. And finally, my mom said, "Oh, by the way, he's taking piano, and we need to buy a piano." So my mom was sneaky that way. And but that journey of church was how I came to it. That was a safe place for me, and it was a safe place for me to be a musician. And I took a church job when I was 17 years old. I was playing in band in school, but also playing football and basketball and all the other things as well. But I somehow fell in. A friend had a job that said, "Our choir director's leaving. Will you come and look at the job?" And for some reason, they hired me. So I have 3 choirs. I'm 17 years old. Wow. And I'm at this church, which was not of my faith tradition, and I was learning, and they were beautiful to me, great to me.
So was your sense of choral music shaped by religious music or ecclesiastical music of some kind before it became choral music with operas and all of that? Did that influence you philosophically?
Yes, because singing to me was always an act of faith. That was what I grew up doing, everything that I did. I didn't even have to think about that. It just was. That's just who I was. And so when I went to college, it was very clear to me that my choices were not in music. I just knew, everyone knows in my family, I just knew that was not it. We'd had enough conversations about it. Are you going to major in engineering? No. What are you going to major in? I don't know. Music never came up. Mm-hmm. So I entered in pre-med. I loved biology. I was good at math. And I began my major in pre-med and had the most miserable year of my life. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Made horrible grades, which I'd always made good grades, and I was...
Well, that was a direct message to do something else.
It was. So I changed my major, and I didn't tell my parents that I'd changed my major.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah. And I've told my mom that summer. The only problem was, you have to audition to be a music major, and I just changed my major. My pre-med advisor was like, "Please go." Leave. And so he said, "Yes, you can be a music major." And I showed up the first day, and I said, "I would like to register for my music classes." And they said, "Who are you? Have you auditioned?" "No." "Well, the voice faculty is meeting today at 3 o'clock. Will you bring 2 arias or 2 art songs?" And I literally looked at them and said, "What's that?" Yeah. And I said, "I don't know any of that," but I said, "I know this. I have a couple of songs I know, and I can sing something from Annie, Get Your Gun." So I did. So I showed up.
And they were okay with that?
The voice faculty didn't care. They were just so happy to have another baritone tenor. A man, bring him along.
Right. So did it just completely open a window for you once you changed your major?
The world changed. My grades changed. My life changed. Everything was like, oh, now I know what I'm going to do. And I really felt like that. It was power. It was power. It was like everything kind of fell in line. I was like, yes, I'll go to school. I'll start at 7 in the morning and go to 12 at night every day. How hard do you want me to work? I'll work. How many summer sessions? What do you want me to do? Let me do it. Yeah, because I loved it. I loved it. And it was just, I was in my passion. I still recognize that today. I recognize it today, that I'm so fortunate, to do what I love.
And you chose to do not just singing, but conducting.
Yeah, because I'm a we person, I really am. I love singing and I'm playing. I love all of that, but I love people and I love the process. I'm a teacher.
But it seems to me that even with math abilities, when you're creating something, putting together an opera, or putting together a chorus, making the chorus good, that there's a lot of the same kind of structure that you see in mathematics.
Yeah, I'm a total music theory geek. Doing the Bach B minor Mass right now, oh, yeah. I mean, I could sit for 2 days and never get up, just looking at the structures, just looking at, how the harmony works. And again, the structure. The first movement of the B minor Mass is one of the greatest creations known to man. It is. Every note, there's not one extra note. The structure is something that makes us all better, just being around it.
Why did you want it as your last piece here?
It's been a real joy doing the Bach cycle here. We've done kind of all the major things. And so I wanted to complete that cycle. So that was part of it. But I also wanted to do something that I felt like symbolized my work here. And even though there is no staging, there's no things like that, it is a work that Bach accumulated from all the things in his life. He was writing it for a job interview. It was never supposed to all go together. And that's just been a little bit of my experience at Spoleto. It's just been, I've been taking this and this and this and this and putting it together. And the B minor Mass is that way. It's his piece of going, I'm going to take this and this and this and do it and put it all together. So to me, in my mind, that was just like, this is absolutely the piece that I want to do.
But it's it's a profound piece of music. It seems like it must have gone straight to your heart in order to want to do that. I remember the day that I began to study it as a master's student at CCM, and I always knew the piece existed, but I had never been around it. And my teacher, Elmer Thomas, started working us with this piece with us, and it was magic from the moment that I began working with it. It's always been, I don't know, somehow it's just deeply gone into me from the first moment that I started studying it. So I don't have a desert island piece, but if I did, this would be it. Just an aside, the desert island part of it, many years ago, one of the very first years I did conversations, Christopher Keane, who was the first music director at the festival, was the person I was talking to, and it was very shortly before he died. And I said, what would your desert island discs be? What would you want to hear on your desert island? And you know what he answered? Silence. I was just blown away because he said silence. And I think I understood it when he died about 3 months later. But some people have all these wonderful things like the B minor Mass for their desert island listening. And I guess for him it was, he could finally be at peace. He could finally stop driving himself, finally stop living with the demons of trying to be perfect or perfecting music.
I would say that it's the hardest thing in my life as an artist. It is the most difficult thing that I can do, is to be alone and is just to find that silence. I can't create without it. With all the busy, it's like, I'm an academic as well, so in the academic year, it's virtually impossible for me to be creative. I have to find it in the times where it's completely quiet.
How do you do that?
I don't listen to the radio. I try to vacation far away from everything else. I try to be near a mountain or a place where it's also visually it takes me out of it. But yeah, a reading helps as well. Just being out of the sound world and just letting my creative mind go. So reading helps that as well.
When you're just walking around on the streets, I mean, I assume you're, in some situations, thinking about what you're rehearsing. But otherwise, do you hear music in your head as you walk around, as you are distracting yourself from talking to people or something? Do you hear a whole bunch of different pieces all the time?
All the time. All the time. It's always going. I'm very visual, so one of the things that really helps me to stop that is being engaged in something visual. I love television. I don't watch it that much, but I like it because it makes me stop the other part. Walking on the Battery can do it too, here in Charleston.
Everybody seems to have a battery fixation.
Well, there's
Jeff
just
Nuttall,
something being that. I'm
Stephen Prutzman.
Yeah. But visual, we went to the beautiful gardens in Pawleys Island, one of my first day off here at the festival, and being in that beautiful garden helped me to stop the constant recording that's going on in my head.
When you conduct a chorus, how is it different from conducting an orchestra? Because I know you've done both. You conducted the Philadelphia Orchestra, I believe.
There's a practical difference that is profound. The practical difference is an orchestral musician has an instrument, and they're looking at music on a stand, and you are there. I get asked about a baton all the time, and why using a baton or not a baton. Well, orchestral musicians need a baton a lot of the time, because if you're the third trumpet player and you are 75 feet away from the conductor, and I'm looking at my music and I'm looking at you peripherally, I need to see that, or I can't see it. And a choir, they look at you. They look at you. I could take an orchestra and I could put different conductors up in front of it, and it might or might not sound different. It probably will, probably sound a little bit different. I can take a choir and put 5 conductors in front of it, and it sounds unbelievably different with every single conductor, because a choir is immediately responding to humanity, to breath, to eyes. They are looking at you. It's not only visceral, it's tactile. You can feel that when people have to breathe and begin sound together. That magic is not like an orchestra.
What does it feel like as the conductor? I mean, when you are getting that back from this body that's making sound, what does it feel like? What does it do to you?
If I do it right, it takes my ego out of it. Because I can't do it and they respond. We have to do it together. So I can't go sing. I have to go sing. It's that magical moment where sound and propulsion and intonation, how much stress is going on in the body. Well, if there is stress in the body and they need to sing perfect fourths in tune in a stratospheric register, they can't do it. They need me to go, I trust you, I'm going to get out of your way and let you do your job. If I get in the way of it, it destroys it. It destroys it. So I'm just the lead dancer. I'm just saying, let's go this way, and we go that way. So it is that symbiosis that has to happen.
When at the end of a performance that works well with the chorus, do you feel exhausted? Do you feel exhilarated? Do you feel like you've been transported in some sort of magical way? Do you feel spent?
No, I would say that usually I feel healed. It's exhilarating, but if it's right, and there's a peace about it. So I feel very peaceful, and then tired later. But because you have people that are looking at you and you're looking at them, and in this concert of expression or whatever it is, that's exhausting. You know, that's why you, as a conductor, you have to step out of it and just allow the choir to do their job. If I stay in it all the time, it's not good for this, but it's not good for the experience. It has to have that. But when it's like doing the rehearsals for B minor right now, or the rehearsals of the choral concert, when it's right, I mean, it's just the easiest thing in the world. It's just the easiest thing. It's like a good car engine, you know, when it's just smooth as silk and running just as well, just like, yeah, that's what you want.
Huh.
Great choral conducting is like driving a Ferrari.
That's nice.
I've not driven a Ferrari, but but I'm up for it.
Who are some of your favorite composers?
I'm a real omnivore. I love everything. Josquin des Prez would be one of my very favorite composers.
Really early.
Really early. Claudio Monteverdi would be another one. Of course, Bach. My composers of today would be Caroline Shaw. Really speaks to me. David Lang speaks to me. There's something about maybe the simplicity of that, or the kind of vocal nature of what they do that I respond to. I also like complexity. We did the Steve Reich's Music for 18 here several years ago in the MIT series, and I just prepared 4 or 8 singers to do it. But that's one of my favorite Spoleto experiences. With just standing back and experiencing the Music for 18 and how it guided. But because I spend my life in choral music, it's the power of harmony that really turns me on. I love rhythm, I love all of those things too, but it is text and harmony that really does it.
Do you have a favorite, or a sort of, this was the most challenging, the proudest, or the hardest, or the kind of superlative projects you've done here?
Path of Miracles would be one of the most challenging and gratifying projects. And I have to say, the other project would be that I did was El Nino, was John Adams' El Nino. Impossible to memorize, impossible to stage, and we did it. And we did it in a way that I think changed the lives, certainly of everyone that was in that cast. And it also spurred interest in them creating their own things. Those were 2 huge mountains. But yeah, one of the beauties of Spoleto is it's always challenged me to do new things that were outside of my box. Preparing a score by Helmut Lachenmann was...
I remember that one, the Little Match Girl.
That changed how I looked at things.
Why?
Well, the score is impossible. It's written in its own language. Every singer had to have 4 or 5 percussion instruments and their own language, and how do you rehearse it? And I thought, there's no way that this man hears this. There's no way that he can hear it. He came to the first rehearsal and I went, you hear it. He went, thank you for doing that. And I hear you doing this, and I'm like, there's no way that you heard that. But he did.
Huh.
He did.
Well, he wrote it for a reason.
Well, I was blown away. I was in total awe of him being able to do that. Huh. And then it's just those number of projects. We did a opera called Proserpina by Wolfgang Grimm, and this was a piece that I looked at and went, gosh, it's just hard. It's just hard. I don't get it. It's just hard. And the more we worked on it, the more I went, oh, it's brilliant. And the more the singers learned it, they went, we love this. And they hated it. Oh, they hated it. I just had to just do 2 measures at a time until I could get them. And we did the performance, and I am the biggest fan of Wolfgang Grimm now. I mean, it's incredible music. But it was just so learning for me. I was like, I should know better. But it was, you know, that journey of and trust of getting through to the end. And not all pieces are that way, but that was a piece we did here at Spoleto that really did, it changed me,
What do you listen to at home? Do you put on choral music, or do you listen to easy listening, country western, rock and roll, or don't you listen to music at home?
I don't listen to music at home except when we're cooking dinner or having people over. And then I listen to Billie Holiday, and I listen to bluegrass, and I've been known to listen to a little bit of country music in my car or top 40. But yeah, I like things that remind me of home. Mm-hmm. So, you know, a mandolin, a fiddle, something that's simple that reminds me of home. I like that. One of my first jobs, really, tenure track jobs, was in California, teaching at California State University, and it was really fabulous, but really lonely, just feeling away from my family and kind of everything we knew. And that was it. You know, Alison Krauss was my lifeline. I'd put her on really loud, go outside and work in the yard or whatever it was, and just like, okay, I just need to be fed that. And that's part of me.
You've rattle off the names of some of the conductors, or a list of the conductors you've worked with, orchestra conductors.
Kurt Mazur, Lauren Mazel, Esa-Pekka Salonen. My main collaborator today is Yannick Nézet-Séguin, Charles Dutoit, Simon Rattle. I could go on and on. I've had a very, in some years of my life, I might collaborate with six major conductors.
And you told me that Séguin is your favorite?
He's the person that I learn from the most.
What do you learn from him?
I learn how to deeply get to the essence of the music by valuing the people in front of you.
That's an interesting thing to learn.
Yeah, he doesn't say he doesn't say, here's the music, we must do what the music says, we must be there. He says, here is this amazing journey that we have to take, here is this music, and here are these people, and we have to figure out how to put them together to do this together. And just when we started working together, it was also an element of trust that today, he's so annoying. I tell him this all the time. He'll never come and do a rehearsal before we do something. He used to, but all of a sudden we developed such a beautiful relationship that he's just like, no, I trust you. And so he does, and so we show up and begin, and he's like, yep, that's exactly what I wanted. Or, you know, we were doing Messiah together this year, and I said, why don't you try it this way? And he said, that's a good idea. but let me try it like this. And then he did it, and I was like, oh, I hate you. Your way is so much better. It's like, that really, really worked. But it's great. We have a beautiful banter back and forth that in working together. So it's very valuable to me to have his friendship and to make music with him.
Do you intend to make Cincinnati the U.S. capital of choral music?
Absolutely. I do. Yeah, again, it is this long journey of there's hunger for people wanting to connect with each other. And I just can't think of any better way to do that than with choral music, with people singing together. And all the layers that can be, from the church choir, the children's choir, the professional choir. And I would love to have the synergy in Cincinnati to be that hub that people charge, and that they're honored and paid for what they're doing, that they use the experiences that we can provide and spin off and do their own ideas and develop their own groups. But yes, I want choral music to be seen absolutely at the highest levels of classical music. And I think we want to use our position to go well beyond classical music, to let it become something that has many entrance points for people.
Do you see yourself commissioning a lot of music there?
I do, because talking about this new singer, this person that is a choral singer, that's an opera singer, that's music theater, that works on this, there's not a lot of music written for that concept. And that's what I want to do, like taking a work like this Kevin Putt's opera that we just worked on, but I want there to be more choral opera, choral theater. I want there to be more connection to the worlds of audio and visual and sound and site-specific work. And I think there needs to be a bigger body of repertoire written for them. And so I see that as where my commissioning energies would go.
Well, I hope you'll miss us here a little bit. I think it's time to ask if anyone has any questions. The lady back there's somebody going to bring you a microphone. But the microphone is coming to you.
Did Dad ever understand your love of music?
Yes. It took a while. But yes, absolutely. And then, and then he bragged like he was the person that made it all happen. Yes.
Was it the dramatic scene where he came to one of your concerts and then he thought, whoa?
I don't know, but I was conducting the Tennessee All-State Choir early on in my life, and I'm from Tennessee, and it was kind of a magic moment for me, and my parents came into the back of the room, and I think my dad was stunned because, again, he would never think in musical terms, but he could see what I was doing. He could see how I was teaching and what I was doing, so yeah, and then became one of my biggest fans.
You in the center?
Yeah, that was a magical interview. So Martha, thank you. And Joe,
Thank you.
the question I'd like to ask you, since so much came out, like what question would you wished you had asked as you think about what you've presented here today that you wished you would have been asked to express?
She's really good. There's one class, Martha and I talking earlier, there's just one question that she asked that we probably didn't cover, and that would be what would be my legacy
here, right, we talked about that.
At Spoleto, and I want my legacy to be, I hope, has been an elevation of choral music. It hasn't been an improvement because the choral music before me was of the highest level. But it would be an advancement of how the choir is seen and and putting it on a trajectory toward the future, and with our new professional model as well. So maybe legacy.
Nobody else? Oh, Susu, microphone's coming to you.
I don't have too many questions, Joe. It's just that we're going to miss the heck out of you and what you do here, and it's so wonderful. I think you've been instrumental in helping someone come behind you. Are you going to explain to her what has to be done here? Are you going to help her put things together like you do?
Are we allowed to talk? It's Thursday, so I think the release is going out, so are we allowed to talk about her?
I don't think so. However, I think I can say that I'm very, very happy that the Spoleto has allowed me to guide this process forward, and I'm thrilled with what's about to happen. So I'm just very happy with that. But you know, I'm leaving Spoleto, but I'm not. I'm going to be. You know, you're still going to see me. Be here supporting. I'm going to recruit for this choir. I'm going to try to keep elevating this program. No, I will miss living in Charleston for a month out of every year, but I will. It's in my heart, and it's something that I keep promoting and supporting.
So you'll keep coming to festivals?
Absolutely.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I have to
well, Joe Flummerfelt came after he retired for a number of years. This person who we're not allowed to name, I guess, does she come from the tradition that you represent and the ambition that you have had for the choir you created?
Yes, I would. Yes, absolutely. She does.
And you,
a very different person with hopes and dreams, but with the grounding and depth of musicianship and humanity that was there when my beautiful predecessor Joe Flummerfelt was here, and she will definitely continue on that. She's an incredible human being and great musician with lots of dreams.
have you worked with her, or is she someone you know already?
Yeah, she was my student.
Ah,
Yeah,
that's
long ago.
uh-huh.
Yeah, it's been a joy to watch her life, and I'm excited about this next chapter for her.
She who we have not named. Anyone else? This lady here?
Will you be selecting members of your professional choir to be in the same way you've selected the Spoleto singers? And will they be some of the same singers you've worked with here?
Yes, the process was a little different. I've already done it. So I've done the audition process, although with the professional ensemble, it will be an ongoing process. But yes, and I've used what I've learned at Spoleto and how I hear in singers how they audition, and I've applied that to the new, from the model that I will use. And the other part of your question was, are there some of the same singers? Absolutely. I would be foolish not to, yeah. I believe in our singers. And what you're hearing in the festival, I say this not with ego for myself, or I try not to, but they're the best. They're really, really amazing. And so, yeah, they are exactly the type of singers that I will be molding as I work with the professional choir in Cincinnati.
Are they moving to Cincinnati?
I hope so, every one of them.
Of a choral singer, like the age? And my second part of the question is, when you're stepping back and you're letting the choir go, are you just holding the baton and waving it? Is that how you step back, or is it another way?
Nope, that's pretty much right. Just watching it go. I usually don't put my hands completely down, but if everything's swimming along, I just stay out of it and enjoy it. And then step back in when I go, oh, don't forget, we need to go this way now. All right, here we go, we're going that way. So yeah, and that's a great thing. About the age of a choral singer, it's different, of course, with different types of ensembles, but the longevity is amazing what happens. And I'll just take my, my professional choir in Philadelphia, and you know, my youngest singer there is probably 25, and that's very young to be there. And my oldest singer may be 75. So it is a long range. It's a muscle, and everyone's musculature is different, but you have to work it out. You have to train it the right way. You have to feed it. You have to, you know, all the things you have to do. And the range, long range of singing is pretty extraordinary. Just like we think about solo singers as well. I've been fortunate enough to, I'll take Renee Fleming that I've worked with kind of my whole life. I wish I would have known her when she was here at the festival, but it's been really, really beautiful. And I've just done some recent projects with her. And here's a singer that she may be changing the parameters of what she's done, but I think she sounds just as gorgeous today as she did, you know, 30 years ago. She's just careful with what she does, but yeah, it's amazing how long the voice can last. Has a little difference to do with what your Fach and vocal range are as well, but yeah.
How do you go about finding new music that you want to play? I mean, obviously, you know, there's the list of all the, like Bach and Buxtehude and Monteverdi that you've mentioned and so on and so forth. But when you go out looking for new material, how do you do it? There isn't exactly like a directory where new music and A to Z.
I use all the things that we use. I use Spotify. I use Apple Music. I go down rabbit holes of things that I'm listening to. Or there will be a commission, or one thing that I will hear, Gabriella Frank, who we commissioned a piece to be a companion piece for the choir in Philadelphia that we premiered at Carnegie Hall. Well, I didn't know didn't know her music, and once I met her, I was like, oh, rabbit hole. What's everything that you have written? And I put that in. But it's interesting, what I try to do, what I also try to train my conductors to do is, when I'm programming, when I'm actually doing it, I try not to be in that rabbit hole. I try to do that. A conductor has times that they take things in, and I listen and I take things in and I talk to people and I gather and I put things in my bag. And then there's a time that I don't, because if I just go, no, I can't keep questioning whether there's a better piece or whether there's something. I have to stop and go, this is what I know today. And then I do that, and I finish that project, then I go, oh, now I can put more things in. Mm. If I don't do that also, it rocks my confidence, because I'm always second-guessing myself. So when I actually start to program something, I don't listen, I don't go into my files or the library and look. I actually try to put it together in my head. So I have to keep in my head everything. I mean, I've got to keep a lot in there about what is there, and then I might go, oh, I do remember this. And then I might have to go get a score and do it. But yeah, that difference between intake of learning as many things, listening, YouTube, whatever it is that I'm listening to, talking to people. Ooh, what's that? Yeah. And I have great students that will send me pieces like, oh, Dr. Miller, you would love this. And I love it when they do that, because they also know me. And I'm like, yep, I love that. I'm going to put that on my piano, and I'm doing that piece. So it's that. But when it comes to programming, I kind of leave that, and I put it in my imagination and do it.
How much of it do you memorize?
I'm not good at memorizing, but basically I try to memorize everything. You're rarely going to I'm always going to have a score there. Sometimes the hardest thing for me in conducting is going, oh gosh, where am I? I don't know, because I haven't been looking for a while. But so I'm really trying to memorize everything that I do, but I also know that it's not photographic. I just
You
don't
have
have
the safety
I
valve
don't,
of the
I don't
score.
have that gift.
But
Yeah.
but often the singers have to memorize it if they're doing Path of Miracles, for example.
Yeah.
In order to get through it, they would
Yeah.
have to memorize it.
That's right. And like doing Path of Miracles, same thing. I have the score there that I know it, but it's memorized because also if I have to conduct from that far away, there's no time for me to look down and go, where am I? I have to be with all the things that are happening. Yeah.
Back there, the microphone is coming to you.
Thank you. One of the things I admire a lot about choral music is that the repertoire is very cumulative. There's so much new music and commissions that are always being added and performed on a constant basis. And what are some other lessons like that that you think choral music can teach the opera to every other genre of performance?
I think that those pieces that combine all of those elements, like in theater, like an ensemble production, I think that when those things happen, you feed off of other people. I think the life of a single performer, opera, classical, whatever, you have to figure out how you're going to keep connecting to the music. When you're with other people, or you're having music that's written that way, it's always there. You're always getting inspired by someone, that's doing something else. And that's why I will go back to commissioning, because I think there has to be more pieces that are written that way, that allow the storytelling nature of music to happen, but also the ensemble, so the mixing of those two things. So I actually think that's a point of commissioning. I think that there's going to have to be more music that is written that way. Chris, I'm not sure that I answered your question. Okay.
Well, all I want to say is thank you. Not just for this conversation, but for all the years and everything you've done. Thank you.